Baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark doo 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 doo, baby shark.
Please stop.
Let's talk sports doo 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 doo. Let's talk sports doo 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 doo. Let's talk sports.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of Call to the Bullpen podcast. I'm Austin Keeney.
Emphasis on the children. I'm Jared Silberkleit.
I don't think any children listen to this show because it is restricted.
No, it's explicit.
Restricted, explicit, same thing.
No, it's not the same thing.
I'm Chase B, and I'm the only one that has actually heard that way too many times, so I still hate it.
That's fair.
And
I
remember,
absolutely
folks,
hate that song.
This podcast is only restricted if your parents are, doing their jobs.
Yes, I suppose.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
Jared, what do we got on the bill?
Well, it is January 15th, 2019, as of recording time. So naturally, we must be talking about the Final Four. And then there were
Playoffs,
four.
Right.
Playoffs.
It is the
We're
Final
talking about
Four. It's the
playoffs?
Fantastic Four.
Yep.
Four-post massacre?
Four-post massacre, baby.
Ruh-roh.
Absolutely. We got four teams left in the National Football League. One of these four is going to win it all, win the Super Bowl. We're here to recap Divisional Weekend because, that all just happened. And all the top seeds won, like you guys predicted.
Yeah, well, without getting too much into it, it was kind of boring. I was a little disappointed with the games. I mean, I picked them all right, so in that part I'm not disappointed about. But just like the competitiveness of each game, besides maybe one or two here, it was not that great.
Yeah. They were pretty much all fairly decisive games. Even the Saints-Eagles game, which was only decided by 6 points, the momentum had swung so far in the Saints' favor after like the first quarter that the game felt further apart than it actually was. You could say the same about the Cowboys-Rams as well, because although that was also only decided by one score, that was a game where the Rams led by multiple throughout much of the game. So, and then the AFC games were both total blowouts. So, if you're a fan of competitive football, this was probably not your weekend.
Yeah, I mean, like you both just said, most of these games were not competitive, to say the least. The Rams-Cowboys game was the closest one mathematically. Does that make sense? No, actually, the Saints-Eagles was. But even that game was pretty decisive. I mean, the Saints never really lost control. They were down early, but they pretty much held the Eagles in check the rest of the entire game.
Yeah.
The Cowboys-Rams game was, I think, the most interesting one because it really showed that the Rams are definitely beatable. If the Cowboys just had a few more big plays that they could have pulled out, I definitely think they could have won this game. So it should be interesting going into next week with the Rams facing the Saints. But let's start off with the first game. We had Chiefs at Colts.
Yeah, with this one, it really was shocking because you thought that the Colts would be able to do something on offense against a weak Chiefs defense. But really, they got stymied early and they couldn't get anything going. I mean, I think a shocking stat was like they didn't have a first down until under 2 minutes in the second quarter, which is just ridiculous because to stop that offense, which has been just firing on all cylinders since week 5, pretty much, it was shocking to see. Now, we did have some inclement weather, and that could be, I guess, Jared, like we always say, dome teams playing in the cold, this is what happens. And I mean, here's your proof right in the pudding right here. I mean, the Colts could do nothing. The pass rush was getting right through the offensive line. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. It was horrible. Their first touchdown was a special teams blocked kick.
Yep.
So you take that out and
covered.
Yeah.
You take that out and they held the Colts offense to really 6 points, which, to be said, it was a touchdown, but Vinatieri totally blew the extra point. He also missed a chip shot field.
Oh, my God. Yep. Don't want to get me started with Vinatieri.
This was a game to forget.
Retire, old man. How many times are we going to teach you this lesson, old man?
It is, because I texted you guys.
I know.
I texted you guys about the Vinatieri. I was like, he just looks like he does not give a fuck.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't give a fuck. So I'm like, he's out. He's retiring. He's going home. He doesn't want to play in this cold weather.
Yeah, unless the Bears pick him up.
Yeah,
They might.
The Bears need a kicker. And Kareem Hunt's not technically a kicker, so.
Funny that you say
How
that.
long are we going to make that joke?
We're getting really off topic right now, but I was playing Madden, and it was like a fantasy pack pick from whatever team you want. And
Did they make him an out-of-position player?
No, so they took him out from the game completely.
Of course.
It just says
They Chris Benoit him.
Yeah, HB like number 25 on
Oh,
Kansas City
man,
Chiefs.
going to the old college
Yeah,
unit.
I was like, wow.
That's bold. Were his stats still pretty good, though?
I mean, they're fine, but still.
That's
nobody's gonna
hilarious. They
use them.
completely Chris Benoit him.
Yeah, which means it's not looking good for him next year.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He did.
Yeah, without question. I mean,
Wow.
it's funny. What
That's crazy.
Guys, what were we talking about last week during the preview, though, about how, the Chiefs have let up a lot of points this season, but you look at the playmakers they have up front, and they've got, with Justin Houston and Chris Jones, the way they played and just dominated the line of scrimmage in this game, it just reminded you that, yeah, they do have the potential to really pressure the passer and stop the run, too. I mean, they kind of put the Colts in a position to where they fell behind so far, so early in the game that, you're playing catch-up mode. They weren't able to play their game with utilizing Marlon Mack to control the clock the way they did in the second half against the Texans. That just wasn't an option when you fall behind by 3 scores in the first half. They really just ran into a buzzsaw. They looked completely overwhelmed, and the conditions were a factor. I think that, going outside and playing in the cold temperatures was a factor for sure, but I don't know. I was kind of disappointed because I thought we were going to get our first blizzard game of the season because we haven't had a snow game this year, and I always look forward to that just because it throws everything out of whack and anything can happen, and just the visual is too awesome in my opinion.
Yeah, and what's crazy? Eric Berry didn't even play in this game, so
he hasn't played all year.
Well, he played last week.
Yeah, he played a couple times. Yeah,
couple games. That's it.
Yeah, but my point is he was a big return, and it was supposed to be a big momentum swing when he came back. I mean, on paper, Eric Berry is one of the elite defensive players in the league, especially on the Chiefs. So to get him back was a big momentum swing for them. And then he doesn't play in their playoff game, and a lot of people were thinking, well, this defense is pretty beat up as it is, and they're really not that good. So now you're not playing with your best defensive player and your best secondary player. What are they going to do? Are they going to be able to stop the Colts like we're talking about? And clearly they showed that the rest of the defense could step up. And you made a great point with Justin Houston. We talked about, the sack leaders on that team last week, and they really need to get some pressure to the quarterback. I mean, Justin Houston, as old as he is, had 2 sacks last week, and I think there was maybe 5 or 6 total sacks for the team. So they definitely had a lot swinging in the right direction on defense. In the crazy offensive stat, I was actually just looking back over the stats. Patrick Mahomes didn't even throw for a touchdown this game. And honestly, he was not fantastic passing in general. He was 27 for 41. But Andy really had that rush offense going. They had 4 rushing touchdowns. Mahomes had 1, Tyreek Hill had 1, Damian Williams had 1, and Darrell Williams also had 1. So you're talking 4 touchdowns just out of rushes. And I mean, I guess if you want to, consider Mahomes also a rushing touchdown, because it was, but you're talking no passing touchdowns and still had a pretty damn good day on offense.
Can we rewind a second to the Darrell Williams touchdown?
No. You're okay.
No. So the last touchdown of the game for the Chiefs. So basically what happened was it was a 3-yard goal line rush touchdown, but he gets stuffed at like the 1-yard line. And who else but Patrick Mahomes comes over behind him and pushes him in.
That.
And you can hear Chris Collinsworth on the commentary just like freaking out, being like, of course it's Patrick Mahomes to push him over the edge and get the playoff win finally, like, because it's been so long since they've won.
It's been 20 years since they've been to the championship.
Yeah, it's been
give or take a year.
Forever long.
Yeah. Correct.
So it was really cool to see because he definitely did make an impact, but not just with his arms, just like his mentality. He's really changed the team, and I think he's got a great shot to beat New England this week.
I think he's got a great shot to be one of the better quarterbacks in football history if he keeps this up.
This is one of the most impressive.
What one hell of a year, man.
Yeah. I mean, it almost reminds you of Kurt Warner's first year in the league. If you talk about a first-year quarterback just coming in, first-year starter, and straight up dominating in this league and establishing himself immediately as one of the premier passers. He's got help, but every good quarterback that puts up big numbers has a good supporting cast. And Travis Kelce was his big target as far as major throws of significant length in this game, although Tyreek Hill certainly got involved as well. Damian Williams really set the tone here running the ball. I mean, the fact that he showed that the Chiefs can depend on him in the absence of Kareem Hunt is going to be huge going forward, especially.
And Spencer Ware not doing a damn thing when he came in.
Yeah.
And who the hell was Damian Williams before Kareem Hunt was gone? Did anybody even know that he was on this roster? Anybody?
Nope.
Because I sure as hell didn't, and Sarah's a Chiefs fan, so I didn't know he was on this roster. I had no idea who this guy was. He shows up, and here we are. They signed him to an extension, and right now he's the starting running back on a championship caliber football team with 129 yards rushing and a touchdown. It's kind of crazy. Is it him or is it the Andy Reid system?
It's Andy Reid, the offensive
Let's
genius.
be honest. Yeah.
It's just we're going to talk about
back to Chase's point a couple weeks ago. If running backs are irrelevant,
yes, they are.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about it a little bit with the Rams and C.J. Anderson as well. But yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to Andy Reid and the offense that he's helped orchestrate this year. The fact that he's got the system in place for Damian Williams to come in and be as successful as he's been, it's been really impressive. And the Chiefs, it's just nice to see them show up in the playoffs and deliver as advertised and not blow it, because there's part of you that, like, unless you're a real hater of a top seeded team, whenever I see this like flop in the divisional round, I kind of just roll my eyes like, come on. Like, I feel like me as a fan, I'm being robbed of seeing the best teams play at their best when it matters the most, which is what you want to see in this league. So I think that it's great that, unquestionably, I think at this point it's safe to say you've got the four best teams in the league playing in the championship round. So that's great for football.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the Colts, they had a great season. Hey, they overachieved big time. They were supposed to be a cellar dweller in that AFC South division, and now you look at, like, they might have the brightest future out of any of the teams just because of their youth. I mean, the Texans, they've got a lot of talent. They have, obviously a young quarterback that's going to be there for many years to come, but not the youngest supporting cast around them, especially on the defensive side. They got some years on them. So you don't know how long they're going to really contend for. They might be this might be their window in the next few years. The Titans seem like they're just kind of stuck in that,
annoying phase.
Yeah, they're like
annoying purgatory.
They're not going to die.
They're not going to.
I hate when teams do this. Just literally die and get a good first round pick and rebuild your team and die another year and take a couple years off. If you stay at 9-7, you're gonna stay at 9-7.
Totally agree. They're in that, so they're stuck in that mode. And then the Jaguars, they obviously have a massive overhaul, I think, that's coming to that organization. So
Jacksonville,
yeah.
I mean, if we're talking about the AFC South, I would be tempted to say Jacksonville might have the biggest turnaround in the NFL next year.
Well, it depends who they get. We don't know who they're going to get yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, if they get I think they're going to get Flacco, honestly.
I do too, which is hilarious because I hope he flops down there too. But
it'd
be interesting to see him.
You saw it 2 years ago. They can do it with their lineup right now. They just need to add a couple pieces. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Jags were also contenders in that division next year.
I agree, but man, if the Colts were to add if the Colts add a stud pass rusher or two and they fortify maybe the receiving core with somebody to someone else really good opposite T.Y. Hilton. They could
Antonio Brown.
there it is.
Let the rumor mill start now.
He's going to the 49ers.
Hey, the Broncos said they might be pursuing him as well.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Very, very interesting indeed.
It's just too much money, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It is.
Especially for a wide receiver. When's the last time you saw a star receiver on a Super Bowl team?
That Okay.
Yeah, think about it. Super Bowl team, star wide receiver. And I don't mean Edelman.
That's true.
They really don't matter as much as you'd think. It's crazy.
Nope, it's all about the quarterback and the defense, baby.
I mean, I'm just saying, Des Bryant might get a ring this year, so
Yeah, that doesn't count. Michael Thomas, honestly, if the Saints win, Michael Thomas would definitely
That's fair.
change that
We-
narrative.
we're gonna-
But
we
in
gotta
the past
talk-
few years, it's been a while. Yeah.
I mean, or Tyreek Hill, I think could be up there based off of stats. I think Tyreek Hill could be.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he was the
Up
number
as-
one fantasy wide receiver this year.
I mean, most likely with Mahomes being the number
Yeah.
one fantasy quarterback.
Yeah, he had like
that comes with
12
being-
touchdowns or something ridiculous.
Yeah, that comes with being the best receiver on the team. But I mean, I think you could consider him. I mean, but you also, if you look at the Rams, sure, Brandon Cooks, he's up there.
Yeah.
Who's the other
yeah,
one that's on
I
the other
guess.
side of him? I can't think right now. Robert Woods. Robert Woods is up there.
Nah, I'm thinking more like Odell,
That's true.
Julio,
That's true.
like that.
Well, Woods actually
kind of
was a
class.
top 5 in receiving yards this year. People don't know. A lot of people don't know. Or fringe,
Right.
or
If
fringe
the,
top
if the
5.
Falcons didn't blow that fucking lead, then Julio
Exactly,
would have
yeah.
been on it. So
Exactly.
technically, Julio was the last one in. So
In a Super Bowl,
Yeah,
not to win.
and Julio
though.
also
I
had,
hear you.
Julio also had one of the best catches ever in that game, and nobody remembers it because all they remember is the Falcons completely choking.
Yeah, and you could say Alshon Jeffrey last year, but is Alshon Jeffrey really in that top 5 elite status?
No, he
after
wasn't. He
dropping
wasn't.
the football this week.
No, yeah, you're right. So let's continue forward then.
Yeah,
Anyways.
that's a great segue. So we're going to talk about next up. We had the primetime game Saturday night, the Rams versus the Cowboys in LA, and this is just this was like eye candy for me. I loved this game. This
game made no sense.
This was
Zero.
great, man. So this was a mind-blowing game, really, if you'd followed the Cowboys this year, and the Rams for that matter, because not only did the Rams utterly shredded the Cowboys on the ground in this game between Gurley,
Shreked.
yeah, and
They
Gurley,
shreked.
Gurley and C.J. Anderson combined for what was it, 40 carries for about 270 yards. They set an all-time playoff record for rushing yards. And by the way,
Specifically, it was 39 carries for 238 yards.
okay, all right, well,
270.
it's 270 combined with some of the other guys chipping in.
Oh, it was like
Okay,
270.
I'm saying,
combined
but
with
you
the
said
guys.
CJ and Gurley, so
No, okay,
sorry.
yeah. But
Either way.
the team was about 270.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, which was an all-time Rams rushing yards playoff record, breaking a record that was also against the Cowboys, and it stood for
That's pretty funny.
yeah. So
Flavor.
what was crazy was that they weren't really doing anything fancy as far as the running plays they were calling. These were all just gaping holes that the Rams offensive line was forcing to open up over the middle of the field. There were no tricks, not a lot of end arounds or tosses, stretch routes, nothing like that. It was just pounding it up the middle and finding these gaping holes for 10 to 15 yards every time they touched it.
Why did CJ Anderson play so much in this game?
Listen, I'm gonna break this down for you right now. CJ Anderson is a primetime monster. And I would know because he was a Bronco for a long time. He plays like absolute ass. But when the games matter, he turns it up to another level. And that's exactly what happened. And I'm a little shocked because we talk about how good the Cowboys' run D was all year and how good, their young linebackers are with Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith. So when we were talking about this game, I thought the Rams would beat them through the air. They would beat them through their weak secondary. And they have playmakers on the outside, so they could throw it to Brandon Cooks. They could throw it to Robert Woods. I was watching this game, and I was just like, they're just beating them up. They are just like, we are stronger, we are faster than you, and we're going to just push you around. And I was stunned that the Cowboys got beat like that. And it's not to be said that Dak didn't try to bring him back because it was a pretty close game. Cowboys had the lead at one time, 13-7, I believe was their last lead. So they hung in.
No, they didn't. So the Cowboys had a 7-3 lead early in the game, and then the Rams roared back. They scored 20 unanswered. They were up 23-7 at one point.
Okay, all right.
correct.
Thank you for correcting me.
Yes.
They did have a lead early on, 7-3. So they were there. They were 1 or 2 plays away from getting back in the game, and they only lost by 8, which is technically one possession. But I wouldn't say it was a disappointment for the Cowboys. Definitely what their defense did was disappointing, but this Rams team was a good team, and Todd Gurley was still amazing. He had an amazing touchdown run of like 30 yards or something
35.
like that. Yeah. So it was, and I'm not a Cowboys fan, clear. But yeah, we definitely got the better of the two teams in the next round, in my opinion.
Yeah, and let's not only talk about the Rams' offensive performance running the ball, but also defensively. Aaron Donald and the Ndamukong Suh absolutely balled out, stuffing the run here and bottling up Zeke Elliott, because we've seen this. This is the way you beat the Cowboys. You get out in front early in the first half, you stuff Zeke, and you make Dak beat you. Not only beat you, but having to rally from behind. He's not that type of quarterback that's going to be able to bring his team back from the dead like a Drew Brees or somebody like that. And on top of that, they did not allow themselves to get burned by Amari Cooper in the secondary. He had a few catches, but nothing crazy. They didn't allow that 40 or 50-yard bomb to Amari that could have gotten the Cowboys back into this game. Dak had one completion like that to Michael Gallup, but other than that, they didn't get burned by him through the air. They didn't get burned by Zeke on the ground. And just like we're talking about the Chiefs with their talent on the defensive line, the Rams are another team that's filled with stud pass rushers. And although they've allowed a ton of points this season, they still have players with the talent to put forth performances of this caliber. So, I mean, there's been a lot of times this year they've allowed a lot of points, but they also have the capacity to really bottle teams up, stuff the run, pressure the passer. And defensively, they really created a lot of space between them and the Cowboys. They were leading by 2 scores throughout the majority of this game, whether it was 23-7 at one point, 30-15 at another point. So they gave the offense a lot of breathing room to where they could just rely on that ground game to control the clock.
Yeah, and with that, the Rams do take that one 30-22 over the Cowboys to move on to their conference championship against the Saints, which we will get into in a very brief moment. Next, we are going to talk about the Chargers and Patriots. Jared, what do you got?
Oh, this game was hideous. Hideous, man. I have not seen a team play this poorly in a postseason game in a very, very long time. The Chargers look completely jet-lagged, overwhelmed, unprepared. Whatever negative connotation you want to use would be appropriate in this instance. Their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. It was a failure from the line all the way to the secondary. Phillip Rivers was inaccurate throwing the football. They got dink and dunked all day on the first drive, allowing that first touchdown to the Pats. And then from there on out, they're just getting gashed by Sony Michel. Brady has easy throws over the middle, just opened up, waiting there for him. It was like they were a well-oiled machine that was driving up and down the field on the Chargers without breaking a sweat. And it was 35-7 at halftime.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. The Chargers looked pretty shitty. And honestly, Phil Rivers, when he was throwing the ball most of this game, it looked like he was just off balance and awkward and unorthodox. Every time I looked up and I saw him throw, he was like leaning backwards and throwing off his back foot.
It's because they were hitting the shit out of him.
Yeah, he was scared.
Well, the line, dude, this Chargers offensive line did not show up. I mean, the Patriots pass rush should not be this good. It's not this good. They hit him every time he dropped back. Every time. So, if we're looking at the Patriots at home after a bye week, what can we really expect? I mean, this is what New England does under the Bill Belichick, Tom Brady era. I know we were all hoping for the Chargers to, make this miracle run to the playoffs, but it just doesn't happen. This is why I picked the Patriots, even though I had them against the Ravens, technically. I picked them because Bill Belichick is probably one of the best game planners we'll ever see. He can game plan against your weaknesses when you don't even know that they're your weaknesses. So Bill knew that if they were going to win this game, it's going to be through the run game. And that's exactly what they did. They pounded the ball. They sent blitzes at Phillip Rivers. They ran play action with Tom Brady, who threw it to whoever the hell he wanted to because, you can't cover everybody and then also stop the run. So this game was disappointing on many levels as a fan of the sport because you want to see a competitive game, and also disappointing because the Chargers did have a really good season. They had a really good run. And to kind of end like this with there was no chance. There wasn't a prayer out there. And you could tell that Phillip Rivers was very, very upset, clearly with his teammates, because this might be the best chance he gets at a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This is honestly the best Chargers team that they've fielded in the postseason in maybe 10 years, maybe since the last time that they played the Patriots in the playoffs, which was in the AFC Championship game, the year the Pats almost went undefeated. It was that year. That's actually the one AFC title game Phil Rivers has played in. And this game was so perplexing to me just because yes, Tom Brady had a big day throwing it, but he wasn't shredding them from the first snap. It was all set up by establishing the run early. And the Chargers are just coming off a game in which they shut down an offense that was exclusively built on the run. Same tough road environment, cold weather. I didn't understand why they're just getting overwhelmed by Sony Michel here. I mean, yes, he's had a good season, but to this degree, a performance of this magnitude, I mean, they didn't look remotely competitive in this game.
Yeah, absolutely not. Chargers didn't show up. They got their booty smacked. And honestly, Phil Rivers, like I said before, he just looked super awkward trying to play. It was just bad.
And what is the chance that they get 12 wins next year? I'm sorry.
Slim to none.
Slim to none. You got to play the Chiefs twice. I'm hoping that my Broncos turn it around. I'm sure the Raiders fans are hoping that they turn something around. So you got a really tough division. You played really good, which means you're going to get a harder schedule. I mean, I'm sorry, but this was their year.
Well, they might not have the hardest schedule in the world because if you look at – so you play who you finished against, right? So the second-place teams that they would play against would be all right, the Colts, not an easy game. But then you got the Dolphins and the Steelers who are going to regress. So maybe it's not that. And maybe it's not as bad as you'd think. But I do agree that – I mean, 12-4 is a great season. It's very hard to go 12-4 in the NFL – and to put up that kind of repeat performance. They haven't done that in their history.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you agree that they're probably 10 wins max next season?
I wouldn't say max, but I mean,
come on. They're playing the Chiefs twice. And they beat the Chiefs this year. Yeah, so I don't think it's going to happen next year.
Well, no. So that doesn't make you think that they could potentially split next year just like they did this year?
No. Well, there's no home field advantage for the Chargers.
Well, how about this? Here's this caveat. The Chiefs, what are the odds of them being just as good next year?
Probably pretty
damn good. Really good, yeah.
I would say, what'd they go this year? 13-3 or 12-4?
12-4.
Okay. I think they'd probably be the same. Yeah, about 12-4.
They are built for
3. Yeah.
They are built for the future.
Especially if they tweak their defense a little bit. I mean, everybody on that team is young.
Yeah.
Everyone.
And they don't have to sign anybody yet. Eventually, they will have to sign people and get rid of some of their superstars just because that's how the game works. But they don't have to sign anybody yet.
They
so
can also
they're in
just
good shape.
franchise tag Mahomes for the next God knows how long.
They're not going to do that. They're going to give him a big, fat old check. Be like, hey, buddy, stay with us.
Well,
I think he'll stay there anyways.
Chargers don't have youth on their side at the quarterback position, but, I mean, you're still looking at, you hope, a full season with Hunter Henry next year, and Keenan Allen, and Melvin Gordon, and plus all the talent they still have on defense. I mean, Joey Bosa is only a couple of years into the league still. So
Joey Bosa is underwhelming, in my opinion.
He's really good.
I think he's overrated. He's overrated.
He was critical to them beating the Ravens last week.
Yeah, but top 5 pass rush in the league? I don't think so.
No. I'd say no.
I mean, he could always develop,
especially with the emergence of Bradley Chubb.
How about not Chandler Jones? Sorry, Chris Jones.
Chris
right?
Jones.
Yeah, Chris Jones. Dude, that dude's an animal. Yeah. He's easily better than Bosa. I know we can't compare like pass rush to pass rush because but.
It also depends on who else is on your
Donald,
team.
Von Miller. You got Khalil Mack.
Yeah.
You got
I mean, Clowney's still.
You got J.J. Watt. Yeah, exactly. Like J.J. Watt had an amazing year, and we're not even talking about him because you got guys like Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack who are just breaking the NFL right now. And I don't put Joey Bosa in their class even close.
I'd agree. I also don't think they have that extra guy that can really assist. You know, when you talk about Von Miller being great, they got Bradley Chubb on the other side that everybody's worried about. So they're worried about him, Von Miller gets through. Or they're worried about Von Miller, Bradley Chubb gets through. Aaron Donald, you got Ndamukong Suh. You know, you got safeties that are also blitzing. You got corners like Aqib Talib who can obviously, corner blitz and those guys. So you get other guys through because it's the same argument with wide receivers. You talk about Juju Smith-Schuster being a great wide receiver. That's also probably because he has Antonio Brown in the same field as him.
We'll find that out next year.
We will find that out next year. But, my point is when you have that second guy that everybody's worried about, the second guy gets through more often because the offense is spread out, worried about those two guys.
Yeah,
not just
sure.
one.
But we generally know who the best players
are.
And
that's, yes.
Yeah. I'm not saying Joe Bosa is a bad player. I'm just saying he's not top 5.
Yeah, I'd agree. Maybe 10. Maybe.
I think 10, yeah.
I think you could argue for him to be top 10.
And keep in mind, he missed like half of this season too. So
he was hurt. Yeah, he was like
he was hurt. And the Chargers defense played significantly better once he returned too. So I think he's going to be integral to their future. And they, obviously a game like this really makes you want to add pieces in the secondary, thinking like, oh my gosh, what the heck went wrong? We need to get better players. So hopefully they have a good draft coming up. Again, it's tough with a team where I think that I hate to compare them to the Giants, but you kind of have to draw similarities where you have some real stud young players, but a really old quarterback. So you are, in some ways, you've got guys that are there for the long term, but just due to the fact that you don't know when you're going to find your next franchise quarterback, you are in a win-now mode. So the Chargers are definitely going to be looking to capitalize on this next year as Phil Rivers' window starts to close.
Absolutely. And with that, we are moving to the next game, which is on Sunday at 1 o'clock. And that was...
No, at 4 o'clock. 4:40, actually.
4 o'clock. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. Sunday at 4 o'clock. And that, of course, was the Eagles at the Saints. And Big Dick Nick is out.
Dead.
The fairy tale is over. No more of this pixie dust bullshit. No more Eagles miracle run. No more repeat. No more nothing. Done, eliminated, lost to a better team. I couldn't be happier. The Eagles and the Cowboys both lost. It's like Christmas all over again.
You know what the worst part is?
What?
They totally could have won this game. I mean, they absolutely could have went down. They were at the 25-yard line when Alshon Jeffrey dropped that pass.
They could have.
They could have scored, kicked the extra point, and then you just have to stop Drew Brees from getting a field goal, which, obviously we won't know if that happened or not. But they very well could have won this game, and that's scary. That's scary if I'm an NFC East fan, Jared, because the Eagles, they didn't have any stars. They didn't have anybody. They were on their backups of their backups. I mean, they were on their backup linemen, backup cornerbacks, backup quarterback. It was scary to see because it shows how good the coaching is and how bad the team still wants it, even though they got it last year. So in my mind, this could be the start of a Bill Belichick type dynasty in Philadelphia. And I know you're going to obviously retort against that.
I disagree.
It really could be because, I mean, these guys had what we thought no chance in week 10, and they come back and they make it to the divisional round and almost beat the number 1 seed Saints in their house.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at this game, the reason that the Saints took control of this game from the second quarter on, and really the only reason the Eagles had that opportunity at the end was because of that gaffe on third down where the Saints rushed into that play after the timeout. I mean, it was a botched move on their part, losing the 5 yards and screwing up the field goal attempt, because I firmly believe if it's a no gain or any yards whatsoever on that third down play, they make that field goal. Lutz definitely makes it from under 50 at home, I believe, because he had the distance on 52. It was just a little off little wide right there. So it was that missed field goal that let the
little dink doink.
no,
kind of.
no,
Little Billy Cundiff.
that was more of a Cundiff. But it was a long try. It was a long try that was made long by that third down botch, losing the 5 yards there, made all the difference at a critical point of the field. But before that, the Saints, so they decided, they didn't strike quickly in this game. When they fell down, they methodically came down the field repeatedly on Philly. This wasn't a case of Drew Brees throwing 60-yard touchdowns or Alvin Kamara breaking a crazy catch and run or anything like that. They were methodically wearing out that Philly defense to the point where in the third quarter, there was a drive that, due to the fact that they were penalized on that drive and kept converting like those third and longs, they had a drive that lasted 11 and a half minutes and covered over 100 yards of offense.
Yeah, I still don't take back my point. Yeah, I think that the Saints were the better team, but the fact that Doug Peterson led this team, and Nick Foles, I mean, I like Nick Foles. I like fantasies. I like fairy tales. The fact that Nick Foles went into New Orleans and had a game-winning drive opportunity squandered by a dropped pass is telling to me that the Eagles are going to be good for a long time.
Well, it makes me happy with all the talk of hypotheticals of how good and or bad they are. They didn't make it to the championship, and neither did the Cowboys.
That's true.
They still made it farther than the Giants. But you know what? I don't have to deal with the Eagles being Super Bowl champions for another goddamn year.
Yeah, well...
Makes me happy.
That's true. I guess the only team... Sorry, Tristan. The only team that I don't want to win the Super Bowl is the Patriots.
At this point, I'm happy with any combination of games that don't include Tom Brady.
Exactly. I agree. Jared?
I don't really care at this point who wins other than not the Patriots. I mean, listen, I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I obviously have said it 10,000 times here, and everybody understands why. However, if it ends up being a different combination, I just don't want it to be the Patriots.
Yeah, no, I agree that anybody but the Patriots. I'd be happy with any of those three teams winning, like genuinely happy for whichever team wins it. I mean, I guess maybe the Chiefs or Rams would add a unique flavor to it, especially if it was Chiefs versus Rams, just because that guarantees a true fresh face is going to win the Super Bowl no matter what. And I feel like you always have that veteran presence. So that would spice it. No. I like Drew Brees. No. I'm just saying.
Brees needs another ring, god damn it.
No, I like.
He's too good to only have one ring.
I don't know. I want to see Mahomes walk out of there with one.
I mean, it's cool, but I just feel like Mahomes is going to get another couple opportunities.
Probably, but it would be pretty cool in his first year.
And then, of course, we say that in 5 years from now, the Chiefs didn't get back to the Super Bowl once, and I'll feel bad. But still, Breeze is so good. He's so good, and he gets looked over because of Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers. He gets so much done for the Saints, and I really want to see him win another ring. That's all.
I would be happy for the guy too, and I do think that this is
rooting for the old guy.
I think that this is the best Saints team that has. I think that they'll cement themselves as the best Saints team in franchise history, right up there. I would say even a little bit better than the team that won it all in 2009 to 2010 over the Colts, just because. I mean, man, this team, they've got talent on defense. They've got one of the best receivers in the game. Alvin Kamara is an absolute stud at running back. And, I mean, Breeze is he's not playing quite the same as he did during his prime, but it's still just as effective. I mean, in this game in particular, he was just so unafraid to test that Philly secondary. Everything he was completing to Michael Thomas was over the middle of the field. It wasn't anything fancy. He didn't have to, go off to the sideline and, try to trick the defense. He was just unafraid to go to his number one guy, confident that no one was going to be able to cover him. And Michael Thomas, I really feel like he doesn't get talked about for how good he truly is. I mean, he's absolutely top 5 in the game at this point, maybe top 3.
Oh, yeah, that's why I said if the Saints win the Super Bowl this year, then Michael Thomas will be the first elite wide receiver to be on a Super Bowl winning team in a long time. Yeah, Michael Thomas is the real deal. He has some ridiculous amount of catches this year. I don't even remember the number.
Oh, it's well over 100. He won them this game pretty much single-handedly.
Yeah. He's got, I think it's like 126 or something stupid, which 100 is a feat in itself. Michael Thomas is incredible. He's got a great career ahead of him, and he's been growing. I think it would be interesting to see him with somebody that's not a Hall of Famer, because obviously Drew Brees can't stay around forever. I know we say that about all these old quarterbacks, but they physically cannot stay around forever. So it'll be interesting to see how he does with a different quarterback in the future. But yeah, he's amazing. He had an amazing year this year.
I would agree that, seeing him with a different quarterback would be unique, but, we've seen if the guy's that good, he's going to put up stats regardless. I mean, look at a guy like AJ Green. He's played his whole career with Andy Dalton, and he's still produced at a high level.
That's true. That is true. And we saw DeAndre Hopkins put up stats with
Matt Schaub,
Tom Savage. Yeah. Matt Schaub and Tom Savage. Cool name. Still cool name.
Tom Savage.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
One casualty coming out of this game, though. This could be big for the Saints. They lost Sheldon Rankins, who was second on the team in sacks.
Truth.
And he's their primary big body run stuffer up the middle, and they're getting ready to go up against a team that put up almost 300 rushing yards. So that's the last guy you want to lose.
Before we get into the preview section, actually, we're not going to do the preview section. This we'll do it next episode. But I want to say this: it'll be very interesting to see how much Jared Goff actually throws the ball in this game, because I think that if the Saints can stop the Rams rush, I think they'll win this game easily.
I agree. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago because Jared Goff's passing has been relatively atrocious for the last, 4
8
weeks or something.
Like the last...
Yeah, but at max, at a height, if you will, at least the last 4 to 5
time he was good was when he played the Chiefs.
Yeah.
That wasn't even good. That was just a absolute shootout.
Yeah. No, he's not.
Dude, he played well in that game, though. I mean, I gotta say this about Goff. It's really interesting because, you figure most quarterbacks, if you have one go-to wide receiver, that's great. And if you have two, then oh man, you're really set. But for an offense like the Rams, their passing offense, the fact that they don't utilize their tight ends at all means that when they really needed the 3 wide, and when one of them went down, it just depreciated the value of that part of their offense so much to the point where, I mean, they did not win that game against the Cowboys because of Goff whatsoever. In fact, he didn't look great throwing the ball. He was missing guys at times.
I think that Sean McVay knows what he has in Goff, and they're not the same team without a running offense. So he will rely on C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley for most of this game against the Saints. Hopefully Drew Brees forces Goff to throw the ball because it'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah. I agree with that point. One of the big reasons why leaning toward the Saints, but we'll get more into that during our preview.
We will get into that during our preview, which will be the next episode, which will be available in just a few short days here.
Does that mean it's time?
It's time.
You know what? I forgot my watch. It's in the other room. Jared,
that's okay.
What time is it?
I know what time it is. It's time for Austin, that was good. Chase, you sounded like a monk.
That's what I wanted to sound like.
He was doing the is that the baritone?
I was trying to compliment Austin.
Yeah, he was doing the bass, and I was the guitar. That's how it is.
He was doing the Tibetan throat singing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Moment of the week.
And I'm gonna nice. I'm gonna start us off, and we're gonna go into sports. Wait for it. Entertainment. Oh yeah, that's right. So earlier this week, if you follow the WWE, there was something interesting that happened on.
Is this the tampon thing?
No,
that
it's
wasn't
not.
WWE.
No,
I was gonna say
there was something that interesting that happened on. I think it was SmackDown. I could be wrong. It might be Raw. I don't follow. Jared, you'll like this, so you'll probably already heard about it. So there was a segment where an interviewer wanted to go in to talk to somebody, and it was Alexa Bliss.
Oh, God.
So he wanted to talk to Alexa Bliss, and he didn't open the door, or so he knocked and he walked in, and Alexa Bliss was topless. Now, if you follow the WWE, you know that they went to a TV-friendly, like, PG, like, rating. They don't do, like, the bra and panties matches like they used to do in the Attitude Era or anything like that.
There's no more puppies?
No, there's no more puppies, JR. And, you know, that's good. They wanted to do, you know, they wanted women to be wrestlers. They didn't want them to be divas, which is why they changed the title belt and all that. But it seems like the inklings are that WWE is looking for a more sexual sex appeal in their shows, and this was the first taste of it, and they wanted to see how the WWE universe would react. So that's
Did everyone freak out?
So my old moment is everybody was either
God.
more sex, or oh my God, you can't do this on TV.
You can't show boobies.
So
on
the
TV.
entire WWE universe is now in a fritz. And
God.
very
other than Reddit, probably.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's my old moment. WWE, if you say you're gonna do something, stick with it.
Yeah, I don't really see this sticking, honestly, or becoming much of a.
Not the age we're in, man. That's just you're a glutton for punishment.
Yeah, I honestly think that like they've done so much to kind of reshape the way people are looking at the WWE women. Probably just because of the reason that like they feel like with how much attention female athletes have gotten in a serious capacity that they felt like they were almost falling behind, and you know, they were kind of the last to position their female athletes in a role, in a light where they were meant to be taken seriously. So I feel like they might throw in things like that here and there to keep people on their toes, but for the most part, they're probably going to continue that trajectory of presenting main event level women's matches. That's why they invested so much money in Ronda Rousey. They certainly wouldn't do that if they were just going to make the women the tits and ass show. So I think that
we will certainly
there's
see.
no more HLA.
We will certainly see.
Eric Bischoff, shout out.
Fair enough.
Jared, do you want to go next?
Yeah, my moment. We already talked about it in our recap of football, but my moment has to go to none other than Sean Jeffrey for his big gaffe that blew the season for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's great, man. You know what was great about this play was you know, I'm not gonna say there was anything wrong with the throw because there wasn't, but one thing that struck me as so odd watching this game was that the Eagles were down on the fringe of the red zone, and the clock was ticking. They snapped this ball at 2:01. So, although Foles' throw was fine, it was a rushed play that didn't need to be so rushed. They could have let this thing just go to the 2-minute warning and get set, and I don't know if that was a factor or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you would have had an extra timeout, you know?
Well, yeah, what I'm saying is like they had, you know, the time was on their side. Why rush into a play? And, you know, but nonetheless, Jeffrey, come on, man. You're the team's number one receiver. You're supposed to be the big playmaker for them, Mr. Reliable.
And also, like 3 years before, don't tweet out that you have the best hands in the league and then drop the game-losing catch. I'm just saying.
Yep. Austin?
That was Yoshi, if anyone's wondering. My all moment of the week goes back to, it's not last week, but it relates to last week's Cody Parkey miss. Chicago decided to hold a kicking competition for their fans, where you could come and kick the same field goal that Cody Parkey kicked, or attempted to kick and missed. Out of 101 people, Jared, can you guess how many people made the kick?
0.
Every single one of them?
0 for 101. And not only that, one of the people who kicked this shanked it so hard to the left that it nailed the security guard directly in the nutsack. And of course it's on Barstool Sports, because like, why wouldn't it be?
I'm going to sound a little cocky here, but if you gave me a warm-up kick and a normal kick, I think I could hit a 40-yarder.
It was also snowing, so a lot of people like ate shit because they were probably in sneakers.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
But I've seen you kick. You play football on a relatively regular basis,
Right, so I think I
and I
could
punt
do
the
it.
ball relatively well. So like I think
I want
it
to
would
see
take
if
me a little practice.
I
but
want to see these 100 people and see how athletic they are.
the one I saw absolutely eat shit was like 270
That's
pounds.
what
and
I'm
like
saying.
4'11",
I mean,
like,
I could pick 100 people that can't kick a ball 5 yards.
yeah,
So.
no, like they put Augustus Gloop up there and he just didn't do anything. But regardless, it was absolutely fantastic that 101 people went to go kick, and every single one of them missed, and then kicked the security guard directly in the nuts.
That is hilarious.
Absolutely. So I am very happy that happened. And yeah. So I think that's going to be it for this week. We will break down and preview our the championship now?
That's
the conference
right.
championships.
AFC, NFC championship.
Yep. So we will break down the championships between the Patriots, Saints, Chiefs, Rams in their respective games, of course, in our next episode. So when you listen to this one, let us know when you're listening. As always, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Reach out to us. Let us know what you're thinking. Let us know what we can improve on, what we can do better, what we can get worse at. And keep an ear out and an eye out for our second episode of the week, breaking down the conference championship. And then it'll be Super Bowl time, ladies and gentlemen. So season's almost over. Just a quick note on baseball. Jared and I, and most likely a special guest, will be breaking down some of the baseball trades and rumors and signings and all that stuff. There's been a couple signings, the arbitration stuff and, 2 years here, 1 year here, stuff like that. But Manny Machado is still on the block and Bryce Harper's still on the block. So there's some big names still to be signed, and we're not going to sit here and talk about rumors when, Manny Machado could literally go wherever the hell he wants. So there's no point in talking about it. So with that, check out our next episode after you listen to this one. Chase, who are we?
We are called to the bullpen.
And what are we doing?
We're hanging up.
Click. Oh.